Cheers, everybody. I want to just try to start a video conversation with my friend Amanda McKeska, who's just a great writer and a free thinker, and she recently posted this piece about growing up as a gay Christian and just her experience of breaking out of religion and kind of the social ostracism and how ultimately made her a stronger person, and she learned to just accept herself, which is awesome. But anyways, it kind of reminded me of my experience breaking out of religion, although for me it was more logic-based and just more, I saw these contradictions that I couldn't reconcile within Christianity. But it was a slow and kind of punctuated equilibrium process where I had these kind of quick transitions between actual beliefs, but these long build-ups in between. Like, say when I first encountered a contradiction, I kind of went from thinking the Bible was the literal Word of God to thinking it was a book written by humans who were fallible, but they ultimately told a true story and we could learn from it, to progressing, learning more about good evidence and skepticism, and kind of just thinking the whole thing is a historic artifact now. But like I said, it was a slow process over years, but with punctuated equilibriums. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience and kind of the timeline for your breaking out of religion or whatever, and whether there were key moments that kind of pushed you over the edge to the next belief system, or if it was kind of a more gradual, continuous thing.
Okay, so Michael Fielding asked me a question for his video blog, which was to describe my sort of evolution of self that I had kind of in the process of breaking out of religion and indoctrination, and he described his as a very gradual, kind of logic-based process. And I think mine is similar. It was very gradual, but it didn't start out as the sort of quest for logic. It was something I was confronted with because of my sexuality, something I had to face and had to look at. And it started out with a very small question and gradually kind of evolved into bigger and bigger questions, which led me to where I am now, which is I would describe myself as agnostic. So I'm still a very spiritual person. I think that has everything to do with my upbringing, and it's very hard for me to completely disconnect with spirituality. But I no longer define God, and I don't really define him much at all. I don't have a box to put him in anymore. I think that's the difference. So I guess I'll start out with, I'll try to be quick. I was very young growing up, completely immersed in religion, Church of Christ. My family was very conventional, very literal interpreters of the Bible. I had several preachers in my family, just to give you an idea of how kind of straight-laced conservative we were. And the Bible and the church were a source of comfort for me, a positive comfort for a very long time, I guess for the beginning. Our family focused on the teachings of Jesus and love more than anything else. And I brought that into my social settings at school, and, to be kind to someone because Jesus wants you to be kind, and to, I could go on with that. I think you get the idea. But I think when I turned about 12 or 13, the very first question that I really asked myself, threw away everything. It was about my sexuality when I discovered that I was gay. And that question was, am I going to hell? And that question haunted me for a very long time. It haunted me almost up until the end, I'd say. And church was no longer a comfort for me. It no longer fit, I no longer fit into that outline of salvation. And I no longer fit into that sphere of who I was allowed to deem worthy of love and worthy of salvation. And when I began asking that question, I began actually looking at the Bible in a different way. And I began searching for logic for the first time in the Bible, because I could no longer take it literally. I psychologically didn't really have a choice but to look for other avenues. And I'd always taken it very literal. I remember I was a very imaginative kid growing up, when a little bitty. I think everyone is. And I was slowly stifled, that imagination was slowly stifled through the church. And I remember asking very abstract questions about God, and the Sunday teacher saying, and being very in awe or inspired and completely tangled in this idea that God could be anything and he was great and powerful, and what was he? And the teacher quickly cutting me off and saying, God is in the image of man. He does live in the sky. He answers our prayers very directly. He hears us verbatim. There's nothing really more to it. And asking if I could be a preacher, and my mother saying no, because you're a woman, and women are submissive, and men are the head of the house, and just accepting answers completely, and not looking for other sources. And that completely changed. And I think at first I began interpreting the Bible, like Mike said, in a less literal way, kind of seeing it as one big parable. And then I began looking at documentaries, and those documentaries about gay rights, and those kind of segued into another question, which was, is the Bible a valid source of information? That segued into me looking at all of religions and asking a bigger question: is any religion a valid, is any religious book a valid source of information? Is a good moral compass? And who deserves? I guess the bigger question was, who deserves to go to hell? Like, what religions fit into some sort of the correct manual. Sorry, I'm kind of choosing my words. Blech, I'm not talking well right now. But to go on, I then began looking at broader and broader questions, like what is love and compassion and kindness outside of the context of religion? And that was a very, very difficult question for me to ask, because I had always defined everything in the context of my religion. And to step out of that and to step into other people's perspectives, and what does it mean to be to love and accept this person, and to truly believe that this person, this Muslim man, deserves just as much salvation as I do in my family, and how is his family similar to mine, and this Buddhist man, like, what does it mean to truly love him, not just to say that he's a good guy, but that he deserves every bit of salvation, if that salvation is available, that I deserve. And then this kind of segued into bigger questions, I guess, about people, sort of this universal definition of this. I guess I began to look at things more globally, and like how governments and religions use fear to manipulate people. Then I began to look into libertarianism, and then I began to look into all sorts of things. I think my imagination flourished for the first time when I broke out of that fear of being confined to defining things the way the Bible did. Science became a very an amazing thing, something that I felt like there was a discovery around every corner that I didn't have the answer to, and that was okay. And I think I had always, with writing, I had always been a writer, and when I was younger, everything, my poetry was always about heaven or hell, and everyone fit into this binary of good and evil, and I began to view the world differently and write differently and explore different structures, and I owe all of that to the very beginning, the first question I asked myself, which I had to because I was gay, and I am very thankful for that question, because I don't know exactly how long it would have taken me to discover life, and discover what I thought was morally right, and what I found purpose in. I don't know how long it would have taken me without that question. I don't think I segued too much. I hope I gave you enough information. I feel like I'm missing something, like I wanted to talk about something else, but it's not coming to me. So thank you, Michael, for including me on your response questions for Freedom Academy. I hope this was not too long.